ModCons is all about showcasing modern conservatism, and what better way than speaking with the future of the party? Today, I'm joined by Matt Corner, Conservative Councillor for Nine Elms. Matt, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello, Jamila. It's great to be with you. Thanks for having me on.
Now, Matt, many people won't know this, but you were my first chairman and the first person I met in real life as a member of the Conservative Party. How cute.
Yes, I remember it very well, meeting up with you to have a coffee after you just joined the Battersea Conservatives, and it
I
was
did.
really great. I could tell you were a rising star
There we
just
go.
right.
Thank you. So we met during the pandemic outside in Embassy Gardens, and despite me scarpering back to Chelsea, I did, of course, come back to campaign for you in the May 2022 elections, where you were victorious, bucking the national trend and winning a landslide. Congrats.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, we fought a tough campaign against the Lib Dems and Labour and the Greens, and also stood, but we were victorious in the end.
Amazing, amazing. So, how has being a councillor been?
It's actually I've found it to be a really amazing opportunity actually, because I've always been someone who's enjoyed volunteering and supporting the local community and ultimately helping people. And being a councillor has given me a really structured way of being able to do that by representing my local community, which I really care deeply about, and being able to get things done for local people. But of course, it also has the political element to it. It's really about holding the council leadership to account. Um, During that election, as you said, it was a very difficult election. We were able to win in the Nine Elms ward, but ultimately there was a change of control at Wandsworth Council from Labour to from the Conservatives to Labour. Um, so that means that as Conservatives, we're now responsible for holding that council leadership to account. The council as a whole is responsible for about £1 billion of public money. So it's a really big and important job to be able to do that, and it's a privilege to have the opportunity to do it as a councillor.
Amazing. I love that. And so, why did you want to become a councillor, Matt? What do you love about the role as well?
Well, councillors have the opportunity to get involved in the full range of local authority responsibilities. Local government in London, in the London boroughs, is really almost like a unitary council that you might see in other parts of the country. So responsible for roads and bin collections, but also adult social care, children's care, education, and working with other healthcare providers as well at that level. There's a huge range of services. I really enjoy representing residents to the council, but also to other agencies that are maybe the responsibility of the Mayor of London. I also really enjoy being able to do that in a way that stands up for Conservative values, making sure that residents have really fantastic services provided by the local council in a way that is delivered for real value for money as well, making sure that we are able to keep money in residents' pockets where we're able to. I'm also really passionate about education, and I think we may have an opportunity to talk about that a bit later. And that's really important to me. So being able to sit on a London council that has responsibility for that and influence on that is really important.
So, you were lying in bed one day, Matt, looking up at the ceiling, thinking, what do I want to do with my life? I want to become a councillor. Was that what happened there? How did the idea kind of come into your mind?
I don't think it was quite like that. Certainly, I have been involved in the party for a long time, and I've always really enjoyed the campaigning aspect of it. And really, being a councillor was the next logical step to be able to take what we were campaigning for and put that into action at the town hall, being able to put those ideas into action and being able to argue for them in the room where they are, where the decisions are taken was just seemed to be a good next step, and I'm really delighted I took it because it's a really rewarding role.
So yeah, that makes sense actually. I mean, if you're campaigning so hard for something, you want to be able to like make sure it's implemented. So that's all
Mhm.
very sensible. I love it. So your ward, Nine Elms, is home to the famous listed landmark and now a much loved dog-friendly shopping centre, Battersea Power Station. So Battersea Power Station, for those that don't know, had been out of commission for 30 years, since 1983. And it was David Cameron and Boris Johnson who officially launched the project in 2013. And it was a joint project with Malaysia, who backed it to the tune of £8 billion. You know, the aim for that was for it to take 10 years to deliver 15,000 jobs, 3,500 homes, offices, and shops. What impact has this development had on your area, and can you really feel it?
Well, it's a really important question, Jamila, and it's really quite remarkable how much the area has changed. For those of us who've lived in London for a while, will be able to remember that the area around the Battersea Power Station was a derelict industrial wasteland until about 10 years ago. And the power station itself, which is a Grade 2 star listed building, as you mentioned, was actually falling apart. So we've been able to go from that situation where the land actually cost money to make sure we could keep people out from a dangerous area, and there was nothing happening there at all, to a brand new town centre in the centre of London that's provided tens of thousands of new homes around it, and tens of thousands of new jobs as well. And we've been able to deliver that when, as Wandsworth Conservative run council in the run up to 2022, with at no cost to the taxpayer, because we'd been able to fund the regeneration through developer levies and business rate contributions from when businesses were able to have the opportunity to set up there. So it just is incredible how we've been able to deliver that amount of new infrastructure really for our community and that amount of economic growth over such a short time span at such a low cost to taxpayers. And yes, it is a very exciting shopping centre as well, dog friendly. And we've also got the Battersea Cats and Dogs Home right nearby as well. All of the iconic Battersea institutions are where I represent, which is really fun as well. And all these community organisations are really able to benefit from the economic growth in the local area.
Love that. And I love the fact that every apartment block near Battersea Power Station as well, because it's so dog friendly, they also allow people to have dogs, which is great for people like me.
It was actually a really a campaign that was run by the Dogs and Cats Home to make it easier for people who lived in flats, perhaps were renting their flats to have pets live with them and have that allowed through their tenancy agreement. So I'm really glad that that's become a reality more and more, including locally.
Yeah, it's great. Good for the mental health as well. So one of the things it does really well, which has proven to be the best model for regeneration, is the mixed use model. So it's not just a block of houses or it's not just a block of offices, but it's that multifunctional development space that feels alive all year round. So it has flats, shops, third space, the riverboat, restaurants, Apple HQ. It literally has it all. Do you think that kind of model, and also, in the summer it's open to like for games, and in the winter it's open for Christmas markets and things. Do you think that model has brought in more members of the wider community as well?
I think it really has, Jamila. Perhaps it won't be a surprise to hear me say that, but the scale of it is something that it would be really helpful to communicate to listeners. It's the Nine Elms regeneration, especially that bit around the Battersea Power Station, has got such large footfall that it's like running the FA Cup final every weekend in that area. There's a huge number of people coming to the area all year round. And yes, you're right. There's lots of things to see, whether it's watching Wimbledon in the summer or attending the ice skating over Christmas. There's always a reason to come back as well, and that's something that's really positive. And you're right about the diversity of the uses of the area. So yeah, we've got homes and businesses, but also a huge number of activities and shops to visit, and community and organisations as well. And it's because of the way that the Nine Elms regeneration was conceived that that's been possible, because we've been able to get so much investment, private investment, into the area to allow those different uses to blossom in the area. This is in quite contrast to what some of the critics of the regeneration say, which is that, well, the government should have just paid for everything. Well, as Conservatives, I think we know that having a diverse range of people come together in partnership to create a space means that you end up with having a diverse range of uses, and ultimately more people come to take advantage of that, and you visit the local area.
Absolutely. And we don't want to be spending taxpayers' money when we can spend companies' money, or they can invest it, let's say. So with that, obviously, with jobs, which is great, and footfall, which is great, also came housing. What was the kind of affordable offer with that development?
So in Nine Elms, the Nine Elms opportunity area, which was defined as the space where the regeneration would happen, where special rules would apply, it was seen that 15, it was decided that 15% would need to be affordable, and 20% has ultimately been delivered. And this includes a range of property tenures. So social rent, affordable rent, shared ownership, where people are able to get onto the property ladder by buying part of their home, and of course, private ownership. And all developers have needed to contribute to that affordable element, the social rent, affordable rent, and shared ownership. And that's really important to have a diverse community and a sense of place. And it's very different, actually, to what some of the opponents of the regeneration have said, which is that we should only have social rent. Well, hang on, that's actually excluding a wide range of people who might want to build to make their home in the area.
I always believe in that model. You've got to give people the opportunity to buy as well. You don't want to just keep them locked in renting or in that kind of cycle. So I agree with you guys. You're very smart. So obviously you are a councillor for Nine Elms and we're part of that launch. What do you think is next for the area? Is it a case of kind of preserving what already exists, or are there plans to develop it further?
Well, there are some very exciting plans to develop it further. And actually, when you visit, there are still a lot of empty plots of land that need to be developed, and actually some quite old buildings that now look really out of place in the area. And we need to do something with those in order to make them either look nicer or build something better in their place. So the Nine Elms regeneration, despite what everyone will have heard about how the Battersea Power Station is open and there's a huge new town centre there, there's actually a lot of work still to be done on that development and in the other developments in the Nine Elms opportunity area. So, for example, when you attend the Battersea Power Station tube station and you come out, you'll see there's actually a building site right next to it. That is going to be the phase 3 of the Battersea Power Station development. But there's currently legal wranglings between the Labour-run council and the development company over the exact specification of those buildings. But we know that the power station has permission to develop there, and we know that developing there would bring hundreds of new homes and new businesses to the areas with all the associated economic benefits that would bring as well. So what we're arguing is, let's get on with it. Let's make sure that we can build in these areas. There are also those buildings that perhaps we need to rethink the use of. So, for example, the Booker's site is one, and there's a waste processing facility in the area as well. There needs to be some long-term thinking about the future of these sites so that we have those spaces available for people to make their home, but also for community amenities, so we can build the sense of place in the area. And we do need to partner with private sector developers and other organisations, bringing everyone together to realise that vision, because it can't just be delivered by local council or the public sector.
Absolutely. And it seems weird and kind of crazy that the Labour Council will be kind of trying to stop people from building in that area when you've seen the benefits it's created in the last 10 years for the people who actually are from that area. So it just doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely. And it's actually gone against the process. So in the last year, we were all set to give the final permission needed to build on that patch of land by the tube station. But the council came in at the last minute to scupper that, and there was actually a row in the Evening Standard about it. It really goes against due process, and I don't think it's what residents would have expected or wanted at all. And it certainly provides a lot of uncertainty to businesses as well.
Well, hopefully we can get them out very soon. So another person I'm keen to get out is Sadiq Khan, my nemesis. So we have seen, so we're talking about council tax. Obviously, you're a Wandsworth councillor, former Conservative held council, prized for its low council tax. I think it was the joint lowest with Westminster at the time, or potentially a little bit lower. What changes, apart from things like blocking development, which seems insane, have you noticed since Labour have held the council?
We have a really proud record as Wandsworth Conservatives at Wandsworth Town Hall for having the lowest average council tax across all the bands in the UK. And this was delivered over many decades of strong financial management at the Town Hall by the Conservative administration. And that meant we were crucially allowed to deliver the services, keep the low council tax, but also build up some reserves for a rainy day as well. Since Labour have come in, that has changed quite dramatically. So they have frozen the headline Wandsworth council tax for 3 consecutive years. But they've also increased council tax by 2% on the adult social care precept. And they've done that while claiming that they are freezing council tax. But in actual fact, since they took over, there's now an £11 million black hole in this year's budget. So really, we have a council that is borrowing to fund day-to-day spending, and using that to fund the 2% increase in council tax that they've gone ahead with. All the while they are lying essentially about freezing council tax because they've increased council tax by 2%. So we've got a lot of dishonesty and really a budget black hole that's developed under Labour over the last 3 years. There's also an issue with services. So you would expect that with increased council tax, you might get better services, but that's actually not the case under this council. They've rolled out a food waste collection that's been very poorly managed, and residents frequently see food waste kind of scattered across their road on bin day. And the Labour administration said that there were some teething issues with the rollout, but actually it's quite a significant thing that residents have noticed that isn't very good. Finally, the housing department itself, which manages the very large amount of council housing that Wandsworth has just recently received a damning inspection report from the independent regulator, saying that the council housing department has serious failings and that significant improvement is required. So again, even though they are increasing their income at the town hall through the adult social care precept, effectively an increase in council tax, residents aren't getting good value for money at all. And indeed, the tenants of the council housing are receiving an even worse service, despite the fact that their rent has gone up time and time again under this council. And it was actually Wandsworth Conservatives who had frozen their rents. So really, there's a lot of concern about what the Labour councillors have done, and next year's election will be a chance to change course.
And I hope people do, notice the changes, because they feel the changes, but sometimes they don't necessarily associate that with a change of, government locally. And it does make such a big difference. Council tax going up is probably one of the most hated things ever. But we've also seen council tax. We've also seen Sadiq Khan increase his council tax precept by 70%, I think it's 71%, since taking office. I suppose in cases where you have a bad mayor, unitary councils with a mayor don't always work. What do you think the mayor has delivered with that money? 71% is a big increase. Labour talk about school meals, free school meals, but surely in 8 years that can't be all one delivers.
I think that's right, Jamila. It's hard to say what Sadiq Khan has achieved in recent years. He's been mayor of London for nearly 10 years now. And while he might have had some achievements that he could point to earlier in his tenure, I think recent years have really shown that he's really a mayor that operates all on vibes and communication and PR rather than actually getting things done for Londoners. There's a huge failure on housing, essentially due to the ideological failings that are also hampering the Nine Elms development that we've just discussed. And this has meant that the rate of house building in London has slowed when it desperately needs to increase so that we can support people to get onto the property ladder and bring prices down for first-time buyers. But on the other issues that the mayor is responsible for, like policing, there have been huge failings. So after the tragic murder of Sarah Everard, which was coincidentally committed by a serving Met police officer who worked in Nine Elms, there's been a huge range of reviews and work to look at the culture of the Met, most notably under the Casey review. But we don't really seem to be seeing leadership from the mayor to turn around that organisation and increase confidence that the public need to have in the Met. Also, on nighttime economy, there have been huge failings in the ability of the mayor to promote that. And we see places like Soho, right in the centre of London, what I would argue is the greatest city in the world. And you've got a really struggling nighttime economy with bars and pubs and other nighttime attractions having to close early. That means that people can't go out in the evening, tourists less likely to spend money, and it will reduce economic. So that's really something that the mayor needs to focus on as well.
Absolutely. And it's so true. Like we did a big episode on nightlife and we were speaking to club owners and things. And um it was at the time that he had the night czar who's now been kicked out, thankfully. But it's crazy because these are jobs that young people in London could be doing to supplement their studying and things like that. I remember when I was a student, I worked in pubs around central London, and not having them in central London does have a knock-on effect for all of these students and young people trying to get on the ladder, trying to save, trying to advance their careers. And I think, Sadiq Khan says a lot of things about free school meals and air, which is all great. But he really does miss that big chunk of London that is very ambitious and young and trying to move along in their
Mhm.
lives. And one of the things I always point to with Khan, when you compare him to like conservative mayors like Boris, Andy Street, we just don't see that level of investment or ambition for the city and for Londoners. Battersea and Nine Elms it's a notoriously young area, but it's full of renters. You mentioned earlier that you have 20% affordable housing, which is really great. What else can we do to shift this demographic of renters into homeowners? You noted that Sadiq Khan's just not building, and I think even Angela Rayner's given up on trying to actually get him to build to his targets. What are your thoughts on home ownership in London and young Londoners in
Mm.
general, I guess?
Yeah, it's London has become astronomically more expensive, even in recent years, compared to what it was like before the pandemic. So if you look at the increase in how much it costs to buy versus how much it costs to rent, the costs to rent have massively increased at a much faster rate than than what it costs to buy. And this is actually really damaging for potential first-time buyers, people who want to get on the property ladder and own their own home, because of course increasing rents mean it's harder to save for a deposit. What we really need to be doing is building more homes in London. We need to be stripping away some of the regulation that is disproportionately stopping that from happening. We do need to obviously protect our parks and our green spaces and our communities, but we can do that in a much more proportionate way. We need to build more homes, possibly build upwards in areas that where that is appropriate, and make sure that we have more dense developments as well, so that more people can live on them. And I think that if we are able to attract private sector investment and partner with developers in a constructive way rather than a destructive way that Labour are, then we can actually develop really beautiful developments as well across London. And if we're able to build at a much faster pace, then eventually we will start to see more supply into the housing market and therefore prices coming down. I think the current approach that's being taken, which is about having a lethargic approach to building new homes while also trying to control rents, which is something that Wandsworth Labour-run council has been rolling out, is actually going to take the opposite effect. It will actually put costs ultimately onto renters and give them no option to possibly buy their own home if that's what they want to do.
It's pretty brutal out there. But one of the things I do really have noticed is that conservatives, especially young conservatives, but conservatives of all ages, to be fair, are really, really, really pushing on house building and home ownership. And I think it is something that's going to hopefully come out of the policy reviews that are kind of coming from Kemi at the moment. So talking about young people, you can't talk about young people without talking about education. And you were previously a maths secondary school teacher. And I recently wrote actually an article article about the government's removal of AMSP, which is the Advanced Maths Support Program. That program was basically a way to encourage people, younger children in state secondary schools to do advanced maths, to take maths in general, and also do further maths. So it's been a bit of a tragedy that Labour have kind of cut this from February gone, just in the middle of the academic year. What are your thoughts on Labour cutting the Advanced Maths Support Programme, AMSP? I'll just say that. What are your thoughts on that? And did you come into contact with that scheme during your time as maths teacher?
Well, one of my roles as a councillor as well is being the lead for children's and education for the Conservatives on Wandsworth Council. So, as well as being a teacher in my previous life, I'm still in touch with education now and carefully monitoring what the council are doing to support young people in the borough. And what I have noticed is that there really isn't that much support for young people at the high achieving end of the attainment spectrum. And also, Wandsworth Council does slightly underperform when it comes to sixth form provision. So actually, the removal of the Advanced Maths Support Programme is actually something that's going to is going to reduce outcomes for those children even more. It was a really good programme because it supported children to get access to further maths and maths A levels, making sure that they were able to get the qualifications they needed to study, quantitative subjects at university that unlocked potentially higher paid careers in the future and helped us as a country actually in this global race we're in against countries that are really, really, really strong at maths around the world. So it is a really concerning thing for me. I think we need to do much better at promoting aspiration through maths as a country.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we can see, Labour's assault on education through things like the Children's Wellbeing in Schools Bill, where they're kind of imposing all of these new changes onto academies. With thoughts on that, if you have any, obviously you have some great academies in your area, like Harris Academy in Battersea. Are you hearing anything from those? Obviously, you are the opposition spokesperson for education.
So obviously with academies, they take their money directly from central government, but they are certainly still part of the education ecosystem within Wandsworth and play an incredibly important role. Huge number of academies in the borough. Many of them actually came from being underperforming or even failing state schools run by the council, and then the Conservative government's continuation and acceleration of the academies programme actually helped them transform into in some cases, some of the best performing schools in the country, where students are making extremely strong progress, potentially from a low baseline on the key subjects throughout their time at those academised secondary schools. I do think that with the schools bill that's being pushed through by the national government, this will have some really detrimental effects for those schools. One of the benefits of academies is that it gives power to the head teachers and the schools running those schools, the teachers running those schools, to make the best decisions for the children that they're educating. So, for example, they could bring in perhaps someone who isn't qualified as a teacher, but who has great career experience in the subject that they want to bring them in to teach, and they can employ that person at the school. They could also deviate from the national curriculum in order to teach subjects and areas of subjects that the teachers at the schools, at the academies, are really qualified to teach and can really help support children and bring their passion for their subject in those areas. But what the new bill does is takes away those freedoms from academies and provides more stringent guidance on what schools can and can't do. And I think that's bad because it reverses some of the freedoms that have resulted in such incredible turnarounds in many schools across the country and actually moved England and Wales up the league rankings internationally for the key subjects.
It's a tragedy. So talking of schools in Wandsworth, back to Wandsworth. The best borough ever. Actually, I shouldn't say that, obviously. Talking of schools in Wandsworth, you and your fellow Conservative councillors recently shared a very important video about Wandsworth Labour councillors blocking a debate about their proposed closure of an Ofsted rated outstanding SEND school in the area. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so what you're referring to there, Jamila, is the potential closure of Bradstow School. Bradstow School is a Wandsworth maintained school, so run by Wandsworth, but it's actually based out in Kent. Um, the reason it's the reason it's so important is because it is a residential school for severely autistic children. So it's really precious type of provision that provides a lifeline to families with children who are severely autistic. I've actually visited the school. The children there receive a great standard of education. They love being at the school, and it's really inspiring to see the work that the school staff have been able to do with those children to give them the best start in life. Now, because of the financial deficit that the school has at the moment, Wandsworth Council are moving to close the school. Well, as Conservative councillors, we think that's wrong. What we should be doing is looking to move the school onto a more sustainable operating model, potentially through academisation. Now, we know Labour don't particularly like academies, but I think that moving Bradstow School to an academised model would really help it and give the leadership of that school the freedoms and ultimately, and most importantly, the financial security they need to continue running the school. So that's what the row is about at the moment. We want to keep that school open and make sure that it can have a sustainable future. And because Labour locally at Wandsworth Council took action to stop us debating this matter at a recent council meeting, we actually staged a walkout of the meeting because Labour were acting very undemocratically in refusing to let the arguments in favour of keeping the school open being heard.
Thank you so much, Matt. And I used to be a governor of an SEND school, a failing SEND school in Lambeth, and we took it to academisation. And honestly, the transformation was remarkable. The kids were like so happy, everyone was thriving. It was just such a different environment. And so I think it's such a good thing that you guys are fighting for this school and fighting to keep it open. And if there's anything any of us can do to support you, please do let us know. Well, Matt, you are a dedicated Conservative. What do you love being about a member of the Conservative Party, and why are you a Conservative?
Well, I've been a member of the Conservative Party for quite a few years now, and it's given me a real opportunity to campaign on things that I feel are really important. And obviously, it's given me this opportunity to be a councillor for the local community as well, which is super rewarding. I made a lot of friends in the party as well, and I find it to be a very enjoyable team to be part of. But why did I become a Conservative in the first place? It wasn't directly because of any of those things that I've just mentioned. It's really because I believe that we need to have a society which allows people to fulfill their potential in life as individuals. That means that the government needs to support people and give people the support that they need to succeed and make sure that they can have those opportunities in the first place. But it also means accepting that government can't solve everything. We need to have all kinds of other organisations, particularly in the private sector, working as well as they can, giving them the incentives that they need to grow and boost the economy so that we can provide those opportunities to everyone in the country and ultimately become a more prosperous society. And I feel that the Conservative Party's general approach of being a free market party is the best way of delivering that.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for flying the flag for conservatism in Nine Elms, and thank you for joining us today on ModCons.
Thank you so much, Jamila. It's been really great to talk to you. Thank you very much.